Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the BFI Southbank Q&A following the screening of Dune. I hope you enjoyed the film as much as I did. I did a big shouting no at the end because I just wanted part two to start. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome to this Q&A this evening the man whose vision we've all just watched and enjoyed. Please put your hands together and welcome the fabulous Mr. Denis Villeneuve. Denis, welcome. Thank you so much for your time, sir. How are you?
Great, thank you, and it's a privilege for me to chat with you today.
Congratulations on this film. It really is all sorts of things. It's wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, merci. That's it.
If you don't mind, I wanted to ask you about when you first read the story, when you first read the book as a young man, and what was it about Frank Herbert's book that you connected with when you first read it, if you can remember specifically?
I was 13 or 14 years old, so of course I identified Paul Atreides, and the idea of a young man who wanted to discover a new world, who had that tremendous amount of curiosity toward the outside world, a young man that was struggling with a family heritage, a genetic heritage, in Paul's case, a religious heritage that is too heavy to bear, and the way he will finally find freedom and make peace with a part of his identity, being in contact with another culture. This idea that another culture can bring comfort and solace, and Paul totally falls in love with the Fremen culture. For me, that was so beautiful and so inspiring, and I, as a young teenager, I totally identified to him. Later on, when it's a kind of novel, of course, that is so rich and dense that as you grow up and as you read it through the ages, you can find new readings or new things that will touch you differently. Later, I think that I was more moved by this idea of the Bene Gesserit sisters being able to control and make peace and being inspired by their genetic heritage, being in contact with the voices of their ancestors. And that I thought was a very strong idea. The idea that what most of the time as human beings we are struggling with our, what I would say, the subconscious heritage, the things that, the forces that you have to struggle with that are coming from your past, or the past of your ancestors. The Bene Gesserit sisters are actually able to use these forces for the better good, and that for me was a very strong idea that I love.
Yeah.
That there's just, of course, all the geopolitics of it all, the way Frank Herbert wrote his novel as a warning that when you blend politics and when you blend politics and religion, that's a dangerous cocktail.
Yeah. It's a wonderful story in itself. I really believe in kind of fate sometimes, how you, correct me if I'm wrong, but Mary Parent, one of the producers on the film, they managed to get the rights to the book, and she read in an article that you'd said that, your dream was to make Dune the film, and you came together she approached you to you were her dream, basically her dream director to make the film when they wanted to get the rights. Is that the right story?
I will not say that our dream director. I will not say this. It's like it's true that since a long time, I discovered the book. When I started to get interested about what is happening behind the camera. What is the job of the actor? And around the beginning of my teens, I really got obsessed with this idea of a cinema, of being a filmmaker. And Dune happened almost in the same. I read the book in that period of time, and me and my best friend at the time were dreaming about movies, being inspired by great filmmakers, and we both together started to draw what could be a Dune movie. But of course, it was just fantasy. It was just like we were teenagers. We were dreaming big. We were very arrogant, very pretentious teenagers, very totalitarian imagination. So, but it always stayed with me, this idea. the idea become more important when I saw the David Lynch movie, which I love David Lynch. He's a master, and when I saw his movie, there's a lot of things in it that I love, and I was impressed by. There's other elements when he deviated from the book, when he got a bit more forward from the book. I felt less comfortable, and when I went out of the theater, I said to myself, one day somebody else will make a new adaptation, because the movie had in my mind what I had seen, what the emotions, what the atmospheres, what the quality of the book were not on screen. There was something different. It was a different take, and I said it will happen again, but differently, and that was my wish. And when I landed in, but that was something that was out of reach for me until I by a strange path. Life is strange sometimes, and I never thought I would work in Hollywood, but it happened. And when you are in Hollywood, then you can start to dream big. That's the beauty of that system. And when people were asking me what will be one of your ultimate dream, and the answer was always Dune. That the rights were available, that they were very tough to get, and I expressed myself in the press saying that that will be one of my big dream. And then my parent, who had just gotten the right, who was about to look for a director, just who happened to like my work as well. We met, and Mary has the best reputation in the business. I mean, she's someone who was known to be a filmmaker, driven producer, someone that would protect that. That's what I had been told. So knowing the reputation of this producer, the head of this studio, and my passion, my desire being too big, we just shook hands and said, let's make it together. It was the fastest
Amazing
ever. Look at each other, we smiled and said, shall we?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do this together. That was it. Yeah.
I love that, because it's you know, this is something, one of the many things that I love about your filmmaking is that you create incredible, very believable worlds, and you know, this world in Dune that you've, you know, that's inspired by this book and the screenplay that was written, that you wrote, but the intimacy of the characters and the intimacy of the story in this huge scape that you've, you know, this huge world, this never-ending desert that we see on screen, but the intimacy is always there in your storytelling. There's always investment in character, there's always investment in story, and I think that's what's one of the many relatable things I think about this your version of Dune, is that you're there with those characters, you're on this journey with them. Is that something that's easy to achieve for you when you're writing the script, something you deliberately think about, you know, particularly with something like Dune? The worlds are huge, they're vast, there's, you know, we've got different planets going on, but this intimacy that's still there.
It's very important what you're saying for me. It's that at the end of the day, technology or the exotism of the world building, it's something that is just there to receive as an impact, and an impact that will have an influence on the inner journey of the character. And what I'm interested by is that introspective journey that at the end of the day, when you make a movie, it's an exploration of human condition, or some elements of that will touch people in their lives. I meaning the story of Dune is relevant because it has a relevance in our human experience. So it's like what I'm trying. Maybe I'm taking detour right now to just say that it's the human journey that interests me.
Yeah.
The science fiction, what is interesting is that it's a tool that allows you to bring that human journey and put it in a context where you're totally free to express yourself about more difficult subject or more abrasive subjects sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
More difficult to too much heavy for dramas or something like that. But otherwise, at the end of the very heart of things, it's the human experience, and that is interesting.
It's also even something like I love as well how you're not spelling everything out. You know, you don't have to have read the book to watch the film to understand it, but if you have read the book, you're not spelling things out in terms of backstories. You've got beautiful way of telling us everything we need to know about these characters, and part of that's through the sign language, for example, that that's used in the film, which is a beautiful thing.
It was like the challenge was to find an equilibrium between people who are deep, hardcore fan of the book, people who know nothing about this universe. I wanted everybody to feel welcome.
Yeah.
I want people to feel that they should have read the book before. It was important that the movie will be accessible and easy to understand. In the same time, Dune, the book, the novel, take all its power into the details. And what Frank Herbert wrote is so rich and so powerful, and the exploration of a lot of topics that he really tried to do a portrait of the geopolitics and the challenges of the 20th century, and which sadly the book became more relevant today. It's like crazy how the book is more interesting to read today in that regard. But so the challenge was to try to bring as much of the richness of the book on the screen without crushing people with exposition, and that was the main challenge of this adaptation, and again focusing on Paul and his mother's journey.
Did you? Is the world that we see and we've just watched? Is that what you saw when you read the book? You know, in terms of when a book really creates a visual representation in your mind when you're reading it. Is it the world that you saw?
There's moments in the movie that are exactly what I saw when I read the book, which is very moving for me.
Yeah.
Other moment that I had to adapt because in order to reach that equilibrium, like moments where we took the liberty to just express things a little bit differently, so everybody will feel welcome watching the movie. But I will say that there are some moments that are very close to what I had in mind when I read it, which like brings tremendous joy inside me.
Yeah. When we see Timothy as Paul, I mean, it's one of those moments where even though there's been, previous incarnations of this character, he is Paul. It's kind of, you can't think of anybody else on screen playing this character. The kind of delicacies of the way he plays them, the emotional kind of exploration you can see behind the eyes without him even saying anything is so brilliant. Did you always have him in mind when you were writing it as this character? Or when did he come to that point?
The Timoth did impose himself as I was writing the screenplay. I mean, at the beginning, writing the screenplay was a long process. It's not something we did over a weekend now.
Yeah.
I would never be able to do it by myself. It's something that I needed a team with me, and I approached Eric Roth at first because Eric has an insane sensibility, a capacity to bring huge scope and protect intimacy in the same time. And one thing that was very important for me is that I wanted a screenwriter that will bring forward, protect, and love the femininity of the novel, the feminist aspect of the novel, and Eric Roth loves women. I mean, you understand what I mean? It's like something that was important for me, he is inspired as I am by femininity, and I wanted the movie to be for a specific reason. I wanted that to be upfront in the adaptation. And also Eric is mad, and I love his madness, and I wanted to work with her. And then we worked together, and at one point I wanted also to bring someone else on board. So it was really like a tripod, trying to push this thing up. John Spade came. John is a Dune expert. John is a very strong writer that knows the book like me is a maniac, and that combination of the three of us, our three voices, brought that screenplay to life, and that it was like a long process. I apologize. I think I went off road right now. I don't know.
No, it's good, but you can come back to Timothy though in terms of him as Paul, because
yes. I apologize.
No, it's a good road there.
But through that process of writing, as we were writing the character, I remember sitting again in Mary's parents' office and said, "Bon, we start casting. Who are we? Who should we approach?" And we both said Timothée, and I remember Mary saying, we will be so lucky if Timothée was saying yes, because do we have a plan B? And I said, frankly, not. We don't have. There's no plan B. It's Timothée or nobody else. Why? Because first of all, I needed someone that when people are asking me why are you working with this actor or this actress, it's the first boring answer is because they're awesome, they're great. Needed someone that will be able to bear the weight of this movie on his shoulder for 2 hours and a half. You know, it's like I needed, and Timothée is a talent like you see once every decade. You know, it's like a tremendous actor. One of the best, if not the best of his generation. Also a rock star. I'm talking his charisma. The way you put Timothée in front of the camera, it's an explosion. You know, it's really, really impressive. His firepower, and I needed that. Later, we will need to believe that this young man will be able to French we said tromper. He will be able to lure to bring a whole planet into a war. People believe that he's a messianic figure. I needed that kind of dangerous, charismatic figure in front of the camera, and Timothée has that power, and he has also something very aristocratic, that because the book is set in that future, but it's like a historical future. So the kind of feudal or medieval quality to it. So I needed that we believe that it's like almost like a period movie. So it is a period movie, but in the future. So it's like there's something about that and Timothée looks incredibly young on camera. Sometime I remember with Greg Fraser, we were looking at, and he looks like 14 years old right now. And at the same time, he has such a whole soul, Timothée, because of his background being an American and French. He's a young in those two cultures. He's a young intellectual, someone that is absolutely brilliant, has a huge culture. And when you talk with Timothée, sometimes you have the impression that you talk with someone of 60 years old. I'm talking about the way he sees the world, his reflections, his wisdom. That combination of elements from his Paul Atreides. There's a nice candor to the character as well. And I needed that candor at the beginning, that kind of fresh curiosity toward the new world. And when we see what Paul will go through and all I needed a very, very strong actor. But that was my answer about Timothée Chalamet.
The conjure bar test scene is just his face, and the performance in that scene alone is it totally blew my mind. I thought it was great. You've almost made the perfect delicious dish with your casting in this film. I think that everyone just is so perfect for the roles that they play, and you can see the connections between those relationships between all those characters. It feels like the perfect fit to watch. It really is extraordinary.
Thank you very much. I will say that no matter what people think of the movie, I think that one thing that I did right is the casting. I think that I had the chance to work on a project that raised a lot of passion in the actors community, because a lot of people are in love with those characters. So I had like a dream list, and the list, the casting of the movie right now, and my dream list, they are pretty close. It's almost, sometimes there was schedule problems, so I had to change and look at. But it's a project that brought a lot of that was bringing a lot of passion, and it was like it was fun to call people and to hear the joy. But I had time that's the thing about this movie, I had a nice time to write and to prep the movie and to make sure that the world is solid and very slow. I need time to make sure that any ideas has deep roots inside me. I don't like to improvise new ideas on the spot. I like when talking about casting and talking about design. I had time to make sure that what we were doing will endure the test of time for me. That it makes sense for the rest of my life. It's like it was the big challenge for me in this movie was to try to please that teenager that back then. And to make sure that I will not disappoint myself. It sounds weird to say, but
no, it's not at all.
Made this movie for me, and for the massive Dune fan I was a freak, frankly, and make sure that I will not disappoint myself was not easy because I dreamt big.
It's one thing that I wanted to talk before we run out of time was the authenticity of the world. I mentioned about how one of the many things that you do brilliantly is these worlds that you can create, and for this particular, and not using green screen and your incredible special effects and visual effects team and your production designer, and what you've all created is so sort of sensual as you're watching it. The choice to be there in the desert to film as much as you possibly could. I mean, I imagine it's not the easiest environment to film in, but why was it really important for you, and what was the reality of filming in those locations?
It's for me, when you make a movie, it's like you have to find strategies to bring the dream to the screen. And that sometimes you will have to adapt in order to survive as a filmmaker, because it's like, for instance, Dune was made with like a tighter budget that the screenplay was. We had to find strategies to adapt ourselves to make sure that we would keep the scope alive. But one thing I didn't want to compromise was the idea to be in contact with nature. Was inspired by observation on nature, observation on biology, and there's a deep connection about a sacred relationship with nature that is at the very core of the book. And I wanted to be to approach the movie in the same spirit. I wanted nature to be the main character of the movie, and I wanted people that are watching the movie, the audience, to feel not that it's a very exotic world that is too far away. I wanted this world to feel dangerously familiar.
Yeah.
So close to us, like almost like a dream that you had the day before about a planet, something that feels very, very, very familiar. And for that, I needed to be close to reality and to the elements that we know. And I strongly believe that landscape or reality has an impact on I strongly believe, I know it has a deep impact on me and on the actors. And I knew that going in the real desert will influence my mise en scène, but also will influence acting and will definitely influence photography. And I insisted that was a battle I was not ready to lose. And it was one condition that I said that I'm on the backlot or on stage in green screen, and we're going outside. We're going in the elements. We'll shoot in specific seasons to get specific skies with specific wind conditions. Thanks to the gods of cinema, and they were there for us because we had those conditions. We were blessed by the what happened in the desert. It was difficult for the crew, but it was tremendously fun at the same time. I mean, you need to do so. You need a certain specific people. My cinematographer, Greg Fraser, likes to surround himself with Navy SEALs that are ready to do anything in the toughest conditions. They have fun doing this. So, so it was like it was intense, but it was so much fun and so inspiring because I would have never been able to do this movie. What we brought to the screen right now, it will not be possible to do in a virtual environment. Impossible. And I'm not the first one, by the way, who has this approach, but I would say it's an old-fashioned approach to use reality to. It's not just about the impact of the landscape for inspiration. It's also even in the small details. I'm coming from the documentary world.
Yeah.
I was raised trying to create cinema, being alone with a camera, with a small camera, and embracing, trying to find spontaneously what will be the best point of view, try to create poetry and cinema, cinematic image, being in a relationship with nature, with reality. And that energy of the moment is at the very heart of my relationship with cinema. And even when I'm with 800 people, I try to protect that space. And to protect it, I need to be in contact with real things around me. So I know that a lot of directors are able to work in that virtual environment, and they have all my admiration. I admire them. I wish I was like them. It would be easier. It would make my life easier. But I need to, I need to go in deep in the shit to be able to bring something back.
It's always good to challenge yourself, I find. Always the best results come out of it. Listen, I could talk to you for hours, and we haven't even touched on Hans's kind of beautiful, kind of feminine focused score and the bagpipes that are in there as well. I love that moment. And there's so many other things that I would love to talk to you about. But I when you start in part 2? That's my final question.
It's my fault. I am responsible for the idea of splitting the movie in 2 parts, because I was feeling that the world was too complex, and I would have not been able to bring Dune in 1 movie. And the studio agreed spontaneously to that. And then the discussion was not about the movie being in 2 parts. It was more my early desires were to shoot everything, both movies in the same time. But then that felt too expensive for the studio, so we decided to shoot just the first part and wait to see if it create enough enthusiasm. Then there will be a second part. I think that there's something. It's a kind of crazy challenge that I love, and you have to make sure that it will bring enough passion. And there's something honest about that that I respect. And so I agreed with this idea, and making sure that I will put a lot of my old dreams in this first part, because I was saying to myself, if ever that's it, at least I will have brought to the surface something that needed to be expressed. And that brings a deep joy inside me. But honestly, I know that and Warner Brother and Legendary are proud of the movie, and I'm optimistic. Yeah, that's what I would say.
I can't wait. I mean, I can't wait to watch the film again as well. I just I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I had the most wonderful experience with it, and seeing it on a big screen as well, you're in that world, you're there, it's all around you, it's affecting you emotionally, your senses are heightened. It's just absolutely brilliant. It is always a treat to watch your creativity on the big screen, and thank you so much for your time, Denis. It's great to chat to you. Thank you.
Adam, thank you for your generosity and your enthusiasm, and it was nice talking to you too. Take care.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us this evening for the screening of Dune and sticking around for the Q&A. The film is in cinemas on the 22nd of October. And the wonderful news is Denis will be coming over to the UK and stopping by the BFI for a career conversation. So we hope to see you then. Take care, everybody, and safe journey home.